Hello everyone, my name is Webweaver, and welcome back to another episode of It's Look Who It Is. So, surprisingly, we actually made it to the end of the color palettes. So I tweaked the vibrancy a little bit, and I just upped the red value, to be honest with you. That's all I did. So we're in for a very red next, 40 episodes. I don't know how many color palettes there are in this game, but however many color palettes there are, we're in for a very red time. But, yeah, anyways, hello. We're back with the month of Moriko. Might sneak a Yumiko around in there at some point, but, let's go gambling. Also, I drank, I had a sparkling water that had been sitting out for a while, so it didn't really have a lot of carbonation left. It was very, flat, quote-unquote. And so I'm like, oh, I could probably just chug this before I started recording the video. Because, there's no carbonation left, so there won't be any problem with that. And yet, the insidious carbonation is getting me just a little bit, so, probably won't be that big of a deal, but I was not anticipating this. But it is something that I did myself, and I think that's something very interesting, thematically speaking, not thematically speaking, karmically speaking, that's a little bit closer. But it's not quite, you know what I mean? It's not quite there. Oh my god, I alt-tab to check something, and I realize I have, 80 things open. I have, 80 windows open right now. Because I'm having to do, and this is a little bit of evil, so this is evil Panette Bevatine mode, so, just, if you're a member of, anywhere affiliated with Final Fantasy XIV or Square Enix, you're legally not allowed to watch this video anymore. Just keep that in mind. But, I would never do this. Me, who plays the game and plays on my account, blah, 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 I would never do that. Absolutely not. I would never do anything like that. Just saying, I would never do anything like that at all. But, if I were evil, pure evil was coursing through my veins, maybe, just maybe, I would do something like this. And, anything that we're saying right now is hypothetical, definitely not real, and absolutely not happening. You can't find anything useful in the notes, you throw them away? I've never agreed with you more, Moriko. I've never agreed with you more. But, hey, listen, purely evil. Purely evil, hypothetical, fantasy scenario that does not exist and does not happen. And definitely isn't real in any way, case, or form, so any form or case, so, just keep that in mind. This is an evil, non-Panette Bevatine-like entity that is doing this, and I have nothing to do with it, and I would obviously never do it. So, we're doing the FC static thing again, and one of the issues that I made last time was I was good. And, being good is an issue, being wholesome and justice, all these things are an issue in the savage, evil rating scape, right? But one of the things that I didn't do back then was I didn't use certain things that would give me ideas of what I and others may or may not be doing correctly, alright? Put that in your back pocket for later, okay? It's important. Sometimes when you pause the video for 20 minutes, you think to yourself, I should just restart the video, but nah. Listen, here's how it is, right? Okay? So, keep in mind, the last time that we did this, we didn't do any evil. We remained karmically pure. We were agents of justice. But now that we're doing it again, I'm thinking to myself, should we be agents of justice? And of course we are. Of course we're doing it good. We're doing it agents of justice. But hypothetically speaking, if we were to do evil, it would really be nice. It would really be nice to know what we're doing wrong, because we're all learning. I'm playing Gunbreaker, everybody's doing, they're either coming back from not Savage rating for 80 years, or they are brand new to Savage rating, blah blah blah, and they are all expecting me to help them learn the fights and learn how to do it, and in order to clear the fights, you have to be able to do the damage, right? And so hypothetically speaking, if I were evil, which I'm not, I would be using some sort of damage tracker and some sort of logging software so that we could see or find out how people are doing. And, we're stuck on Enrage, and there are no in-game tools whatsoever. There are literally 0 in-game tools on anything that helps you on how to know if you're doing things correctly or not, or if you're doing things properly, or if you're playing your job correctly. There's literally nothing in the game that does anything like that. So, of course, we're not being evil, but in a hypothetical alternate reality where we were being evil, that would be really helpful to know. And, one of the mistakes that being a just individual in that game has is that if you are trying to teach new people how to play the game, or new people how to savage raid, or returning veterans how to savage raid, the thing is, the game changes a lot. There are new metas, there are new things to focus on, and people might not know how to do those things. They might be a little bit confused, and they might just generally have, because it's a complicated game, there's a lot of stuff going on. People might genuinely be in situations where they would really like to know these things, but you can't tell them because then you would get, the Final Fantasy XIV developers would descend from heaven and beat you to death with hammers. So obviously, I would never do that. But if I were evil in an evil dimension where you could do that, I would. And it would be very helpful. But, of course we're not doing that, so I have no way to know how my static is doing, and we're just kind of throwing ourselves at the wall endlessly, over and over and over again, and we're just gonna eventually, try to maybe clear the fight, because everybody is pretty below average and mediocre, including me. And instead of, using evil software to give us advice on what to do and tell us, hey, at this point in the fight, you're messing this up and you should be doing this instead, instead of using that evil, morally degenerate software that would make our lives a lot easier, because then it would help us, actually learn how to play the game, we're just throwing our heads at the brick wall until eventually crit diff carries us, definitely. So, it sucks to be on the good side of the law, as it were, but, Square Enix says that it has to be this way. And listen, it makes a lot of sense why, because essentially how the game works is, oh wow, we could have gotten a free whatever, that's fine. Because essentially how the game works is, obviously you don't want to harass somebody in a casual game or a dungeon or a normal raid because they're not doing a lot of damage. Because who cares? That shit has been, engineered in a lab to perfection to make sure that you're going to spend 20 to 30 minutes on it at most, and then you're done, right? But for a lot of, but when you're doing something like Savage, getting into it for the first time is very difficult, because if your static isn't logging, if your static's not logging, if your static isn't using XIV analysis, how are you supposed to learn how to play the game? Because there's literally, and I'm not joking when I say this, and this is one of the things that I hate about Final Fantasy XIV, is that there's literally, I don't know why I clicked on the screen, there's literally nothing that tells you how to play the game, properly. They added a new tutorial on, how markers work, and, it's a level 50 tutorial, but they don't have anything in the game that, analyzes how you're playing and gives you feedback on, hey, your GCD uptime is bad, or you're missing your cooldowns here, or you're not using this cooldown, and this is a really important part of your kit, or, you have this ability that does this, and that would really help you out here. There's nothing in Final Fantasy XIV that actually tells you how to play your job, and there's nothing that tells you how to, play generally good. It's all bare minimum basic stuff that basically isn't very helpful, because, how do you learn how to play the game? And the answer to that is that you learn to play the game from people who are using illegal, evil, third-party redacteds. You learn how to play the game through those people telling you what you're doing wrong, or using those third-party redacteds yourself. And I'm not talking about, cheating software that, shows you everything that's happening in the fight, and, invisible AoEs, and, mechanic names, and, all that stuff. I'm not talking about that at all. What I'm talking about is... I don't really want to do recluse. I don't really... Like, we have a lot of really weird mysteries lined up. We could almost do ward if we wanted to, and then just shoot you, question mark. But, it's like, how do I put it? There is no way to figure out what you're doing wrong with your job unless somebody tells you that you're doing it wrong, because there's nothing in the game, and it's not intuitive either, right? It's like, you know, like, I'll give you a perfect example. How do you play, what is the optimal white mage opener? Well, the optimal white mage opener is pre-pull glare, pot, into Dia, which then you use Presence of Mind. You glare 4 once, and then you spam glare 3s. I think it's 6. Is it 6 glare 3s or 7 glare 3s? I don't remember. I think it would be 6. Then you glare 4 again. Then you, when your attack speed buff, when your Presence of Mind, sorry, not Presence of Mind. What is it called? The attack speed buff that you get? The, that lets you hypercast? Presence of Mind is the mana boost, I think. But you have, like, a super fast attack speed stim on your magic spells, right? And you use that, and then you get 3 glare 4s from it, and then instead of using all of those glare 4s immediately, you actually bank them. You use the first one, I think, for the purposes of, like, weaving, or, like, lining up, or like, movement early game. But you use the first one immediately, and then you hold the other 2 until after your attack speed stim wears off, and then you use the, you use one of them right as it falls off, you use the second one, and then you refresh your Dia, which is your 30-second dot. You refresh that 10 seconds early. It goes down to 10 seconds on the thing, you cast it, you cast it around, like, 12, 13 seconds, and then by the time the spell applies, it goes down to 10 seconds, then it goes back up to 30. Okay, how are you supposed to know to do that, right? Like, you use your powerful attack speed stim that gives you your most powerful spell as well, and you're supposed to hold that spell. And the reason why you hold that spell is that you want to get as many of them under raid buffs as possible, and because of how people's openers work, the raid buffs are usually staggered by, like, 5 seconds, 6 seconds, 7 seconds, so you need to make sure that your last 2 glare 4s are getting into that window, and then also you're getting your second early refresh of Dia off in those windows and when your pot is still on as well. And so it's like, I am by no means a goated white mage. I'm like green-blue at best, okay? With the best of them, but it's so, like, annoying to think of, like, you can just play the game and just be going on your merry way and think that you're doing things correctly, but you're really not. You're actually doing very badly. And nobody is ever going to, you know, correct you, because why would they? Because they're not allowed to. It's against the game's terms of service, which I think in general for, like, normal casual content, that's completely fine, because the normal and casual content is not really built around you specifically popping off. You know? So I understand why for normal content, normal raids, like normal trials, like regular trials, hard trials, whatever you want to call them, just like regular story content, or like extreme dungeons, or not extreme dungeons, like expert dungeons, you know, those sorts of things. I understand completely why, that stuff. Second enemy ghoul, by the way, write that down. I understand completely why stuff like that. I mean, I think we just, as much as I hate to say it, we probably do that. We probably just take a shot early, and then it's look who it is, our way to victory. We're probably just gonna run away. We're gonna have to run away from something. It'll probably be the boss, who's, like, super strong. Because it's important for us to kill enemies if we can. But of course, if we run into another enemy until this mystery's over, that's when it gets kind of sus. And we probably don't kill any other enemy that we run into until this mystery's over. And there's some jobs play in, like, a really weird way. Like how they changed Pictomancer is another really good example of this. Pictomancer was a really fun job where your motifs were very strong. Your motifs were very strong, your paintings were very strong, and how they changed the job was it went from your paintings are very strong to your regular 1-2-3 combo is very strong. And so your RGB and your cyan, yellow, magenta combos are very strong, right? So it went from, having to make sure that your hammer, your Medine, and your creature motifs and paintings, and your creature muse and your hammer muse lined up with your yellow magenta into your star prism, so you get multiple comets in black, you get your yellow magenta, and then you get your hammer GCDs, and then you get your creature motif, and then you get another comet, right? But they changed it to where your hardest hitting GCDs are now your cyan, yellow, magenta, and your red and green and blue. And so when you go into burst, when you go into burst, hammer is apparently, I dropped Pictomancer when they took it out back and shot it, not because the numbers are bad, but here's the thing, the numbers are actually great, right? Like, they kept Pictomancer's viability, they just shifted the power, and they shifted how Pictomancer plays, which is why I dropped it. I wasn't playing Pictomancer because I wanted it to be the most powerful job in the game. I was willing to deal with abysmal dog shit because the gameplay was fun. But then they changed how Pictomancer is supposed to work, and they shifted the numbers and the power around, so Pictomancer is boring as hell. Because the optimization is optimizing your cyan, yellow, magenta, instead of optimizing all of your fun paintings. And the paintings were OP, don't get me wrong. But, like, it's very annoying, because how are you supposed to know? As a brand new player who's not into Savage, who's not into raiding, you don't know what logs are, you don't know what XIV analysis is, you don't know what any of these things are, you don't know how to check your progress in raids, you don't know how to do anything, right? You're learning brand new for the first time, you like Pictomancer because you think it's cool. How are you supposed to know that Hammer is a DPS loss in Burst because you don't want to use it in Burst anymore because you want to get as many cyan, yellow, magentas as possible, right? How are you supposed to know that? How are you supposed to know that, like, any of this shit is what you're supposed to do? How are you supposed to know that these GCDs are specifically your best GCDs, and you're supposed to use them at very specific times and try to maximize their use? Why is it that the rest of your kit is, like, very situational and you're supposed to use it at specific times? Or even with, like, old Pictomancer, how are you supposed to know that you're supposed to skip Cyan in your burst, right? Because Cyan is the weakest GCD that you have from the Cyan, Yellow, Magenta combo, so you want to cast Cyan, go into burst, Yellow, Magenta, because those are stronger. Or how you can, and I think you should still be able to do this because you want to get as many Cyan, Yellow, Magentas as possible, so this still makes sense, unless they made it to where it doesn't expire anymore. But there used to be a thing with Pictomancer where you would let your first yellow proc for stone fall off, so that you would basically do, like, Cyan, Cyan, Stone, so that when you come out of it, you immediately go into blue. Because your Cyan, Yellow, Magenta overwrites your red, green, blue. And so you would want to get back into blue as quickly as possible because it generated more meter, right? Like, how are you supposed to know to do these things? Because the game never tells you how to do any of this stuff. You just learn it by watching other people and looking at other people's parses and looking at other people's logs. And parsing and log culture are so, like, ingrained into the game that it's not really a problem for everybody who raids. But if you publicly talk about the raiding situation, you have to go through all these hoops in talking about it, because you're not allowed to do these things officially. You're not allowed to talk about these things. You're not allowed to do these things in-game because it's against the terms of service, and yet literally everybody does it. If Square Enix wanted to, or if Creative Business Unit 3 wanted to accurately enforce their terms of service for the game, and get rid of logging and parsing, which are against the terms of service, and if you talk about them in the game, you will get, like, punished for it, right? You can be reported over it, and if the, the game masters or whatever see that, they're like, yeah, okay, we'll ban this person, right? If they wanted to get rid of it, what they would have to do is they would essentially have to ban literally every single Savage Raider in the game. like almost every single Savage Raider in the game. I'd say probably like 90% of them. Like, I know that's an insane statistic because this is a third-party piece of software, but it's like, it's so ingrained in MMO culture that, like, I have the only group that I ever was in that didn't log was my FC static. And that was because I didn't want to do logs for the FC static because I assumed it would work out well, but it didn't. It actually worked out terribly because we had new people who didn't know what they were doing, and I wasn't knowledgeable enough in their jobs to immediately see what was wrong, and so they were frustrated because they felt like they were doing what they needed to do to clear the fight, but they were actually trolling us because they were like absolutely abysmal dog shit, and they would then lash out at other people thinking that they weren't the problem because they had no idea. And you know, they were toxic people, to be honest with you, and we kicked them out of the guild, but it's like, if you, like, that could have been solved a long time ago if I just used the logging software and saw that they were abysmal dog shit, and then plugged that into XIV analysis, and then was like, hey, here are the mistakes that you've made, you can try to fix these mistakes. And they could be like, you know, if they want to change or they want to fix it, if they want to get better, then they could be like, oh, okay, I'll make these changes and I'll get better at the game. Or they could have been toxic like they were, and then we could have kicked them out faster because we would have known, right? But and so with this FC static, I'm a lot more optimistic about it. But you know, it would be a lot more helpful if we were evil. You know what I mean? So in the hypothetical reality where we are evil, we're not. In the hypothetical reality where we are evil, that static is going pretty well, because what's happening is the people who are new are like, hey, you know, I know that I'm new and I'm having trouble with this. If you can point out things that I can work out on, that would be really helpful. And in that alternate evil reality, that's what happened, and they're actively making improvements on how to play, on how they're playing the game, so that they can actually clear the fight. Because I don't know how you have a group of beginners clear any Savage fight. Because unless the person leading the raid group is an expert or, like, above average in every single job, and then, like, you record your progress and you see, like, what people are doing, and you go into the battle log to look at the individual effects and abilities to see what people are doing and where, I don't know how you manage that without being evil. You know, obviously because I am good, that's what I'm doing, definitely. But, you know, I don't know how you manage it, like, without being evil. You know what I mean? Because it's like, it's so much better to be able to just look at the poll and be like, okay, this is the part people are struggling with, and then being able to, in my evil self that does not exist in this reality, and exists in an alternate fictional reality that doesn't exist, be able to say, like, hey, listen, I see that you're struggling with this part of the fight. Is there anything that you want to talk about mechanics-wise? And then some people go, oh, yeah, actually, could you give me some extra help with that mechanic, or could you explain that mechanic in a different way? And other people going, you know, I'm just having a little bit of I'm just having difficulties getting uptime and doing all that with this mechanic. I'm locking and I'm figuring it out. And then, you know, you can look at things and go like, okay, hey, so you're misaligning your buff here, which is costing us a lot of damage. And then like, oh, how was I supposed to know that my buff was supposed to be offset by 5 seconds at this time so that it would line up perfectly with something later? You know, how are you supposed to know these things unless somebody tells you? And unless you're a fucking master at every job in the game, how the hell are you supposed to figure it out? And even then, even if you are a master at every job in the game, how are you supposed to, like, you can't do it without at least some vague definition of what a third-party tool is. Now, I know this is which, listen, legally, if you're affiliated with Square Enix or, Creative Business Unit 3, you can't watch this video. You didn't get this far, so I can just say this without having to worry. But, you know, in case there was a CB3 or Square Enix employee here watching, you know, just turn your ears off for a minute. But, like, how, like, even if you, like, it's definitionally a third-party tool being de facto banned is ridiculous, right? And they've kind of admitted it. It's like, listen, you know what we mean. When we say third-party tool, you know what we mean. And it's true, we do know what they mean. They mean specifically, like, mods, loggers, add-ons, scripts, those sorts of things, like automated, like out-of-game things. Like, obviously you can use a keyboard, obviously you can use a mouse. Obviously we have Final Fantasy XIV content creators who, like, hang out with Square Enix and have, like, official stuff going on, you know? So, obviously there's a lot of that stuff going on. Do you? No. I almost wish I got the camera sometimes, because that would be, like, way better. But anyways, we're just gonna take 2 damage, and then we're gonna kill you. Which is pretty nice, right? But, you know, you can record yourself playing the game. You can do some things with third-party tools that are, like, you know, you can use a calculator. A calculator is a third-party tool. Discord is a third-party tool. Obviously, they don't pay any for those things. But definitionally, they have to be that broad because they want to call any behavior that is like, okay, you're a new player, you have to be on FF logs, you have to be parsing, you have to be blah, 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 you're dumb, you know? And they have to have this stance because we really, really don't want a World of Warcraft situation where it's like, okay, you're new to the game, here, download these, like, you know, download this add-on pack, these weak auras, or whatever the hell they're called, you know? I don't know anything about World of Warcraft. But, you know, download all this stuff. That's, like, third-party tools that tell you how to play the game. Or, like, show you the boss's mechanics before they happen, or whatever, right? They don't want that situation. They want the ability for you to be able to pick, like, to be able to say, like, I'm playing this MMO, and the only thing that I need to play this MMO with is the MMO itself. That's what they want, and I support that, I do. But there are so many, like, situations in this game where they do not give you an adequate level of anything to help you do anything that is, like, mid-core content. Now, I want to make this clear. You've got no idea what Final Fantasy XIV is. You've got literally no idea. And you really, like, you're very confused about what I'm saying. If you are doing the MSQ, which is the entire game, except for, like, the side content, if you're doing the MSQ, you can play the game however you want. Right? Like, you can even play the game solo now. And the MSQ unlocks everything. You have to do the MSQ for everything. The only piece of, like, non-MSQ content that you're forced to do is the Crystal Tower Alliance raids, because it's necessary for you to understand Shadowbringers. So you and it used to not be mandatory, but then a lot of people complained because they didn't get they didn't understand the plot, and the plot of Shadowbringers relies on you to have played the Crystal Tower, which is why all of the optional stuff, like the normal raids, the Alliance raids that aren't Crystal Tower, why all of this stuff is optional and has no effect on the plot. Same thing with things like Eureka, Bozja, and the new Umbral Crescent. Like, these things don't affect the plot. They have their own side stories that are important, and sometimes there will be an MSQ quest that's like, hey, you remember Eureka? Or you remember Bozja? But it's just, like, a quick shout-out that's, like, 2 seconds long in an MSQ cutscene that doesn't really, like, matter or do anything, and you don't have to have done those pieces of content prior, right? Like, probably the biggest example of this is there's a scene in Endwalker where you go to the inn in Sharlayan, and the innkeeper in Sharlayan is, like, the family member of one of the characters, of like, one of the main characters from Eureka, and if you did Eureka, there is unique dialogue with that person, because, spoiler alert for content that came out, like, 80 years ago, but there's 3 endings to Eureka. There is the... Oh, I just realized where we're going. Oh, no. That was the worst fight that we could have possibly had. I should have rested? I should have... Oh, no. What have I done? We're marching to our goddamn deaths here. 4 funds will carry us. 4 funds will carry us. True. Gotta get all the sanity that I can. We're probably gonna lose here, by the way, because of that fight. We missed 2 90% chances. I talk down to Moriko a lot because she's always be missing 95% chances, but, you know, probably shouldn't do that. It's pretty rude. I must be delirious. Me and delirious Rutsu. But the thing is, it's like, you know, there's 3 endings to Eureka, and 2 of them are the bad ending. Because you get to the end of Eureka, and then you are forced to make a choice. And this choice actually does matter for the plot. You can go with Kryle's plan, or you can go with, I don't remember the guy's name, or you can go with his plan. And his plan revolves you sacrificing him. And if you sacrifice him, I assume you would get unique dialogue with his family member who runs the inn in Charlian. But the thing is, those two bad endings, you can then get the good ending by doing the Baldesion Arsenal, right? And by completing the Baldesion Arsenal, I had unique dialogue with that NPC when I first met them, because they're like, oh, you met my... I don't remember if it was like brother or cousin, but it was something like that. It's like, oh, you met my my brother, or oh, you met my cousin. You helped him out in that Eureka place, right? Thanks for that. I really appreciate it. You know, that's literally it. Like, that sort of thing. And yeah, Baldesion Arsenal is really hard and a really huge event to be involved in. But, you know, it's just, they give you little shout-outs. That's all Final Fantasy XIV does when it comes to optional content. And the reason why I'm okay spoiling Eureka is you're probably never going to do it. If you start playing Final Fantasy XIV right now, you're probably never doing Eureka. Now, you might do Eureka Orthos, which is a deep dungeon, and you can do that solo, but you're probably never doing Eureka. Like, Eureka proper, like the adventuring foray, nah. You're going to get to endgame, you're going to do Occult Crescent with everybody else. I almost want to sell this for one more fund, but, yeah, I'm actually gonna do that. I don't know why I clicked that. I'm not getting another one. I refuse. I'm not getting another one. I'm not doing the dupe glitch. I mean, I don't really care. Maybe I should have gone for, like, hot bath or whatever, or, like, cold bath or whatever, because our stamina doesn't matter anymore. But, I mean, our stamina, like, kind of matters. Bloated doesn't do anything, probably. It's also an injury, not a curse, so... Look at that, injury. Okay. This is what we like to call really, really, really bad. So we can do 4 damage, or we can do 7 damage and nothing. Yeah, this isn't gonna go too well, is it? Can we even do, like... We can't... Okay, this is, pretty grim. And we can't even really throw either, because it's like... Okay, we're gonna do the offering, and then we're going to regain... Oh, no. I mean... I don't... We need to somehow... Which I literally don't actually think it's possible. You go down to 17. The flashlight can probably do, like, a couple more, but it's like, what are we getting here? Like, out of this, we're not even buying ourselves another turn. Like, we're literally not even buying ourselves another turn with this. Maybe we could do, like, a kick sever after we throw the old shotgun. I'm just thinking about, like, how we want to play this. And I think you definitely throw the flashlight now, because, you know, our attack speed doesn't matter. So you go down to 14. And we go up to 10, and then we go down to 5. We go down to, by the way, 1, 5. So we have no way of healing again. And so we just end up at this really awkward state of, like, not having enough, we die perfectly because you're doing exactly 5. So I don't really think there's... Because, I mean, we just end up at 5 right now. Like, we heal all this up, we end up at 5. Then we can, like, block, but for what purpose? Like, I'm pretty sure severing kick is faster, but it does, like, 2 damage. So if we did it like, if we set it up like this, we do offering, you go down to, you go down to 16, and then we go down to 1-5 after combat. We go down to 1-5. We can block and then sever kick like once, and then that would take you down to like, I think it's gotta be like, assuming, I'm pretty sure sever kick is faster. Is it really just gambling on sever kick for as long as possible? Like, is that literally just what we have to do? Then wouldn't we want to do that now rather than later? No, no, no. You gotta tank it. Oh, we're gonna start with this. We're gonna start with this. This is correct, I think. Okay. So... 2 of these would kill you, but life isn't that simple. Desperation doesn't work. I mean, if it did, that would, you know, if desperation doesn't work against ghosts, right? I'm like 90% sure it doesn't. I've never, this would be a hell of a time to experiment on it, but we can't risk it. So what I think we need to do is go gambling, right? So it would be like dodge and then sever kick for like 80 years. Is it really just dodge, sever kick? I think it's like, I think it has to be block, sever kick first. Yeah. See, it's 2 damage though, it's not great. So, we block, and then we sever kick. Now, we're gonna go down to... We can actually do this twice, because we're gonna take 2 damage. So we can do it one more time. We win these?! Holy shit, guys, that's crazy. Now, how badly do we lose these now? No final boss? Wait, hold up. -3, -2, -6, -2, -6, -5. -6, -5. Wait, do we have a chance at winning this? For real? Hold on. Do we actually have, like, a for real chance at this? That's crazy. I mean, we have to heal twice regardless, so I guess it, like, really doesn't matter what we take here, like, under any circumstance. So, I don't know, we'll just take, like, stamina or whatever. Like, we have to rest, like, twice anyways, so... So we just do a little bit of, that. We actually had to rest 3 times. But it's actually fine, though. That's crazy, we have a... That's an insane play. I mean, we march on. The second mystery that we did was Wordless Ward, because we wanted to shoot the U question mark. And then Ghoul was the second enemy. I remember that because some of you wrote it down, definitely. Not that it was required, but thank you for your service anyways. That was a crazy run. How long did I... Oh my god. How long was this recording for? Okay, yeah, I did actually... Oh god, I'm good. I really did waste like 20 minutes doing absolutely nothing. Okay, well, thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Have a good one. Bye.